This is Caffeine and Coils, and I'm Deanna.
And I'm Jenny. All right, Deanna, what's our hot topic for today?
Okay, so we talked a little bit a few episodes ago about geothermal
Oh, yes. Okay.
HVAC systems. So
I'm excited to learn about this because this is one of those topics that I have limited knowledge on. So this will be something good because you'll be teaching me something new.
And we actually have what is it? It's called the IG. I'll get to it. But anyway, we have someone that's certified in geothermal systems on
Oh.
the Mingledorff's Tech Services team.
Okay.
So I got his input, and
Look at you.
yeah.
Using our resources.
Okay, so I'll just start from the beginning. Geothermal heating and cooling is a system that uses the natural heat of the earth to cool and heat buildings. It's clean, renewable, and energy efficient. It works year round by tapping into the stable underground temperature. And HVAC technicians should care because there's a rising demand for eco-friendly systems, and it's a great addition to your skill set for future-proofing your career. So the basics, so the way that it works is that the ground stays at a constant temperature of 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit a few feet below the surface. Systems use this stable temperature for heating in winter and cooling in summer. The way that it does that is that it uses ground loops, which are pipes buried underground that circulate a fluid, which is usually water or a mixture of water and an antifreeze, to absorb and release the heat. So there are horizontal, vertical, and there are also pond and lake loops. The heat pump then moves heat between the building and the ground, and obviously the distribution system is the same. Ducts or radiant floors deliver the conditioned air or heat to the building.
Okay, so I have a question, and you may or may not know the answer. So, do you still have like a thermostat on the wall where you can make the adjustment and put it on the temperature that you prefer?
Yeah, so basically, if you want to look at the ground loops, that's like your condenser coil.
Okay.
So it's like that, but it's using the ground to help stabilize the temperature.
Okay. Instead of like your traditional freon.
Instead of using air.
Yeah.
Which these systems still use refrigerant to help, because if the ground's 50 to 60 degrees, obviously it's going to need a little bit more to heat, or maybe hopefully not less to cool. Hopefully you're not less than 50 or 60 degrees, but refrigerant is still used in these systems, but it's just a more efficient way, because if you think about it right now, when we're filming this, it's 20 degrees outside. Heating up 20 degree air for a traditional air heat pump system would take a lot more energy than heating up 50 to 60 degree air coming from
I got you.
the ground, basically.
That does make sense. And I feel like as we have Gen Z coming to be the consumers, their viewpoint is much different than what we've seen with Gen X and millennials. They will pay a little bit more money to have something energy efficient and what they believe in than us traditional millennials typically would.
You're right, because I would I'm gonna stick to what I got. So there are different types of loops that are used. There are horizontal loops, which are pipes that are buried in long, shallow trenches that are 4 to 6 feet deep. It requires a large amount of open land. Trenches are dug and the loops are laid out flat, and it's common in rural or suburban areas that have plenty of space. So your advantages are it lowers the cost of installation compared to vertical systems, and it's easier to install with standard trenching equipment. Disadvantages is you need a significant amount of land area, and it's less efficient in areas with extreme seasonal temperatures because shallow ground may be less stable thermally. And then I should also go ahead and mention, when we're talking about this, most of the time these systems are installed on new construction. You can retrofit a home to use this type of system, but it's a little bit more difficult and therefore a little bit more costly.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about, the neighborhood that we live in and how close the houses are to each other. And I feel like this would not be a feasible system for us to install, and I feel like we're seeing that a little bit more and more, because as we're in this, housing boom and crisis for homes that are needed, we're building them closer and closer together, and more multifamily or apartment buildings and stuff like that,
condos and stuff.
Yeah, so
cropping up. Well, in that situation, you might also be able to use a vertical loop. So the pipes are installed in deep, shallow boreholes that are 100 to 400 feet deep.
Oh.
And these are drilled straight down, which makes it ideal for small or urban lots. Pipes are inserted into the boreholes and connected at the bottom, then filled with the heat conductive fluid. So the advantages would be that it requires less land, so it's great for tight spaces, but a disadvantage would be that access to stable temperatures at greater depths, or it's colder, deeper, so it's going to be a little bit less efficient at times.
I got you.
Disadvantages: higher upfront costs due to the need of specialized drilling equipment, and it's more complex to repair if issues arise. There's also the slinky loop, which is a variation of horizontal loops where the pipe is coiled like a slinky.
Okay.
In that installation, coil pipes are laid in trenches, allowing more pipe to fit into a smaller space. It requires less trenching compared to standard horizontal loops. So your advantages there are that it reduces the amount of land needed while maintaining good efficiency, and it's cost effective compared to vertical loops. But your disadvantage is that you still have to trench 4 to 6 feet deep, and efficiency can be slightly lower due to the shallower placement. So actually, Jonathan, or aka Possum, that I talked to about the geothermal energy, said what he has seen before is also what we're going to talk about next, which is the pond or lake loops. So if you live near a body of water, you can actually have the loops placed into the body of water like a pond or a lake. And he said that they used the slinky style coiling to go into the pond that the guy lived like right next to. So the pipes are weighted and submerged into water, which acts as the heat exchanger, and it works best in areas with access to a reliable water source, obviously. This is the lowest installation cost because your hole's already dug for you by nature. But also it's efficient because water maintains a consistent temperature. But your disadvantage is that it requires a large, deep body of water, minimum depth of 8 feet. And it's not feasible for all locations, and local environmental regulations may apply. Some of the videos I watched talking about this say there's like concerns with like wildlife that are in the pond or lake. So you might have to get special permits to do something like that.
I got you.
So to choose the right system, you would want to consider how much land you have available, soil and rock conditions. I know the land that I live on, it's very rocky, and I don't think that you'd be able to dig very deep before you hit a rock. Budget: your horizontal and slinky loops are going to be less expensive than vertical loops. And water source, if you have a pond or a lake nearby, that would be obviously the best. So in the winter, the fluid absorbs heat from the ground and transfers it into the building. And then in the summer, the system removes the heat from the building and transfers it back into the ground. And here's the different types of fluid. So it's usually water, which is common in open loop systems, where water is drawn from a well or other natural source and circulated through the system and then returned to the source. It requires a reliable and abundant water supply and specific local regulations to allow discharge back into the environment. For your closed loop system, you're typically going to have a water and antifreeze mixture, which is usually glycol or methanol, to prevent freezing in colder climates. Jonathan said that where he's at in the Gulf, they just use water because it doesn't get cold enough to freeze.
Did he also mention? Well, go ahead and finish, and I'll save that question.
The fluid circulates continuously in this sealed loop, absorbing or releasing heat to the ground. And then some geothermal systems, specifically direct exchange or DX systems use refrigerant instead of water or a water-based mixture. And these systems, refrigerant flows directly through the underground loops, transferring heat to and from the ground without a heat exchanger. DX systems are less common, but they can be more efficient due to heat transfer. Closed loop systems are the most common. Open loop systems are less common because there's a lot of environmental concerns about water being used and then discharged back out into the universe. And then, of course, like I just said, the DX systems are going to be even less common. What was your question?
Did he talk a lot about what it took to get certified and like how much? I don't hear of these being installed a whole lot. I know I have heard of them in the past, but I don't know.
Yeah, only 1% to 2% of all HVAC systems are geothermal.
Yeah, it's kind of rare, isn't it?
Yeah, but he says he's dealt with it a lot.
I wonder if it's a regional, like more of a regional thing, because it does make sense in the Gulf where it's not, the temperature swing is not as big.
Yeah, and also, so kind of piggybacking on that, your ideal geographical area, you mostly see these systems in the Midwest and the Great Plains because there's a lot of open land for horizontal loop systems. The Northeast and the Northwest, because the higher energy costs in those areas make geothermal systems cost effective over time. And mountainous regions, because vertical loops are used there because space is limited and terrain can be rocky. Residential, it's for applications, it's mostly found in residential applications, but there could be some room for it with commercial applications like schools and government buildings. And then there are incentive hotspots. States like California, Vermont, and Massachusetts offer generous tax credits and rebates for geothermal systems.
Interesting. I actually did not know that.
And there are also some federal incentives that are available across the country, so you would just have to check on that. Obviously, the benefit here is going to be energy efficiency because they are 25 to 50% less. They use 25 to 50% less electricity than a traditional system.
That's a big percentage. I mean, because especially when you consider that your HVAC makes up the bulk of your electricity bill.
Right, yeah. And it's eco-friendly, so it's going to minimize your greenhouse gas emissions, and it will reduce your dependence on fossil fuels. There's also durability and longevity, so ground loops last 50 plus years, while heat pumps last 20 to 25 years. And it's letting you be comfortable in your space with all of these other benefits. You get a consistent temperature with no hot or cold spots.
The longevity of that is wild too. 50 years. I mean, most of us don't even live in a house for 50 years. That system's going to outlive us, basically.
The bad news is it's very expensive.
Okay, how much are we talking here?
I actually didn't get a quote, but I'm going to look it up real quick.
I feel like region to region it's going to be different too. Like depending on what state you're in, it's probably going to be very vastly different because I'm sure installing this in California is going to cost 10 times as much as in rural Alabama or somewhere like that.
Okay, guess.
Okay, I'm going to say an average cost of $25,000.
Well, on average, homeowners can expect to invest about $12,000 to $30,000.
Okay. So I was within the range, but I feel like if it really does still cost the same amount of money, with the new refrigerant and some of the new stuff we have coming, this could be it could be an option to consider.
Yeah, especially if it's
considering new construction.
If you're considering building something, then I think it would be, you might as well.
I think the part that would make me a little nervous, though, is that how many people can service it and fix it when it's broken?
Yeah,
and maybe we'll start seeing them more, almost like the, kind of like electric cars popping up, and we've got more charging stations coming and that kind of stuff. what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, this, does the system, more systems come, and then we have more people, I think it'll even out. If it's an option that homeowners start to choose more and more, there's gonna be people that are getting the education in the industry to service the equipment.
Yeah, so regarding that, specialized training is available for installing and servicing geothermal systems. Organizations like the IGSHPA, which is why I couldn't remember that earlier because it's so long, International Ground Source Heat Pump Association, offer certifications.
Okay, that's good information.
So I guess you could just go to their website,
check them out,
and see what it takes. But yeah, I think in the future we're going to see a demand for energy efficiency, and I think we're going to see this grow a little bit more. So if you're a technician that has a little bit of extra time on your hands, you might want to get certified and just have that in your back pocket as knowledge that you have.
Good advice. We're going to be leaning on the grid pretty hard more and more. So anywhere we can lean off the grid.
Thanks to all these people with electric cars, the grid is running out of energy.
All right. So for our fun game today, I have 6 questions of fact or fiction.
Okay.
And our friend ChatGPT helped us with these, so they're probably going to be hard. Okay, fact or fiction. If you stacked all the Legos ever made, they would circle the Earth 10 times.
Fact.
You're right. Over 600 billion Lego pieces have been produced, enough to circle the globe multiple times.
That's crazy.
That is wild. We are Lego consumers ourselves at our house, so I believe it. All right. Fact or fiction, the moon smells like strawberries.
Fiction.
Dang, you're good at these. Fiction. Astronauts report the moon smells like burnt gunpowder. Isn't that like such a weird thing for the moon to smell like?
Sure it does. I'm just kidding.
Our resident conspiracy theorist here.
That's right. If you know, you know.
All right. Fact or fiction, the inventor of the Pringles can was buried in one.
Oh my God. I want to say fact.
Fact. Fred Barr, the creator of the Pringles can, requested to have his ashes buried in a Pringles can.
That's smart.
I mean, that's branding, baby.
He said, I'm going to live by the Pringle. I'm going to die by the Pringle.
That is hysterical. What's your favorite flavor of Pringles?
Oh my gosh. I like the barbecue ones, I think, the best.
I like pizza, but I also like salt and vinegar.
Oh my God. My husband made me try the salt and vinegar ones the other day. They're so disgusting.
What is wrong with you?
He's like, keep eating it, and you'll
keep eating it. You won't be able to feel your tongue.
Exactly. Yeah. He's like, yeah. Once you start eating them, like, it really grows on you. And now he's obsessed with them. I'm like, no.
They have like the Takis flavored ones now, and then I think my husband went on like a Takis binge and. Just it was bad.
Yeah,
it was bad. Don't do that. If
I did have the veggie chips version of the sour cream and onion ones recently.
Okay, were they good?
Yeah, it's really good actually, and I think it's been so long since I've had regular sour cream and onion Pringles that I was like, this is really. I bet if I had them side by side, I would prefer
like,
the Pringle.
Wow, these taste like cardboard.
Yeah. But yeah.
For someone who has such a particular palate, I'm surprised to hear that you like veggie chips, but yeah. I digress. All right, fact or fiction, cows moo with regional accents. If you're a cow from the South, that's going to be your new text tone on my phone.
I want to say false.
Okay.
I wish it was true. That'd be cute.
Fact. Studies show cows moo can differ based on the region.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Cows have accents just like we do.
That's hilarious. Cows are so smart, too.
I know. I love cows. I miss cows. I feel like we keep building on their homes.
Yeah.
And we have no more cows, so. Okay. The Eiffel Tower can grow by up to 6 inches in the summer.
True.
Fact. Heat causes the metal to expand, making it temporarily taller. That's interesting to me.
Yeah,
I want to go. Now I need to see it. I need to see it in the winter and the summer. So
I wish the heat would make me grow.
I know. Me too.
In the summer.
That'd be nice. All
Can we
right.
5'8" in the summer? That would be nice.
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah. Goldfish have a memory span of only 3 seconds.
I think
Fact or fiction?
that's false.
Fiction. Goldfish can actually remember things for months. Months. I would have never guessed that.
Wow.
So
So
that
they
one
are
time-
conscious.
That one time you forgot to feed your goldfish,
So they remember.
bro remembered. That's the last one I had.
Have you heard recently people are like talking about when they had a hamster when they were younger, like hamsters hibernate and they didn't know and they thought it was
Okay.
dead, so they buried it.
I actually think this happened to my hamster.
And they're like concerned that they buried their hibernating hamster alive.
Yeah, I that's a real concern of mine too, because I did have a hamster growing up. Yeah, I didn't know that, but I feel like when in the 90s when you got stuff from PetSmart, there was like very little education.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't have home computers back then. People were from the 1900s,
Right,
like,
yeah.
we didn't have the internet to search this stuff and Google it. So, I mean, we are quite literally older than Google. I told that to my 6-year-old the other day, and he was like looked at me like I was
Did you tell them about encyclopedias?
archaic. We had a full set,
So did we.
man. We had a bookshelf specifically for them. My daddy was proud of them encyclopedias.
Yeah, but they were probably expensive too.
I'm sure they were, and I don't remember I don't remember if there was like a door-to-door salesman that came by and sold them. They were just there. They were just always there. Like, I don't have a memory of before the encyclopedias showed up.
Yeah, I don't either. They were just always there in my mind.
And there was a specific shelf and a specific part of our house for the encyclopedias. And I remember writing book reports based off of what was in those encyclopedias.
Yeah. I don't know if I remember that, but I do remember looking up things in them a lot.
I bet you, as an Enneagram 5, I bet you were looking up a lot of stuff.
Well, we also had this book that was like WebMD in a book. And
oh, wow.
I knew that thing front to back because I was a hypochondriac as a child. And so I needed to know
what ailment was.
Right. So.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I need you to get on eBay and find a copy of that book.
I'm going
and
to
bring it
yeah.
for show and tell for science. Because
I
I need to know, because I feel like the medical world is always changing and updating, and it's similar. I mean, I'm sure they have more regulations and more changes than we do in our industry. And I need to know what the 90s WebMD was telling us.
Yeah. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to find out the name of that book.
That makes me excited.
Yep. Well, that's all we have for you today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.